The Remembering Them podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your hosts, Mark Cecil and Ryan Thwaites, acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within Indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people, and I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke and Ryan. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello there.
Morning.
Hi, Luke.
G'day, mate. Nice to see
Good
you.
day.
Nice to see your bird on your shoulder.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Four guests today.
You've missed a couple of episodes. I think the first one was baseball, and then you had a photo shoot. So it's good to have you back.
Yeah, and then I was in America for the last one of these. Before the last one.
Yes, before the last one.
Yeah, I haven't done one of these for a while. This is
The OG
wild.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to get the dust off my microphone.
Yeah. Well, it's good of you to join us, and exciting today because we have full complement since the new edition of Luke in front of an OG guest. So this should be interesting. Let's see how it goes. I'm sure it'll go well. 3 clues for you both, as always, and we have Ryan back for his fantastic guessing. So let's see
I
how we
really
go.
hope I nail it today, just to stick it in.
Okay.
Watch me kill it.
Did you listen to the last one? Did you get it?
Yeah, no, I didn't get it.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. Play along at home as per usual. Clue number 1 for you both. This place is home to the longest cave system in the world. The cave has 643 kilometers or 400 miles of explored passages.
Can I get a clue? Is this the biggest cave in the world?
The longest cave system in the world. That's what the clue
Cave
says.
system.
I know that this might be different, and I don't know. I'll give you the first guess, Ryan, but there's
No, don't give me the first guess. That's the shittest one.
Yes, please. Have the first guess, Ryan. Because
there's
it's
this huge cave system in Vietnam, and it's like huge. Like you look at photos, and there's this person standing on this rock, and it zooms out, and you can't even see this person. It's all a cave, and it's all its own ecosystem.
We could guess Vietnam. It would be
Vietnam,
it would be the first person to ever be on the show from Vietnam, though. That would be the only thing.
and it's
It's
like
making
4 a.m. for them.
Yeah, probably
5 a.m.
is. Yeah. This time of day, it's usually in the States, FYI. Or Australia, obviously. What about? I have a feeling like California has a lot of caves, which is weird. But
Okay, are we going Vietnam or California?
don't go Vietnam. They're still asleep. So we'll go California.
I'll confirm it's not Vietnam, and is it the Choo Choo Tunnels? Is that the cave system?
No, it's like oh man, I looked it up the other day. It's like the moon dang. That's not the bloody hippopotamus thing. But
Okay.
it's huge, man. Just look it up. Just look up like largest cave system in the world. It's
Well,
insane.
It's
You
not
can fit,
Vietnam,
like,
regarding, and it's not California.
damn it, Ryan.
Bullshit.
Serious?
I don't get that.
I think that was a decent guess and well deduced, Ryan, to come to that. Clue number 2, there is a Toyota manufacturing plant that is one of the largest car factories in the world in this place. Does it bring it back to Vietnam?
I mean,
got Asian
Japan
qualities.
was probably. Do they even make Toyota in Japan anymore? It's probably like China. China, make it in China. Toyota, man.
I'm lost, man. I'm lost.
It could. Yeah, this is horrible. These are the worst questions I've ever heard. No, they're not actually. Far out. Cave system, Toyota.
Yep.
Texas.
No good? Not Texas.
Yeah. Okay.
Third and final clue. Founded in 1855, the first interracial college in the south of this country. is in this place.
It'd be America.
Yeah, it has to be America.
First interracial college. Okay. Does this help at all?
Maybe. It's certainly we are in America,
All
in
right.
the South.
Pick your favorite southern state.
Mm.
It could
Panthers, Carolina.
be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That would be North Carolina. Are they North? Give us if it's a Carolina, we get it.
It's not a Carolina.
Oh no, that wasn't
that
our
wasn't a
guess.
guess. That
Yeah,
wasn't a
we were
guess.
just asking. What about Virginia?
Not Virginia.
No, that wasn't the guess either. It was actually Louisiana. Louisiana.
I'm going to cut you off because the actual place we are in today, or our guest is from, is Kentucky in the United States of
That was
America.
the
That's
next
not the
guess.
South.
That was the next guess.
So the cave system is in the suitably named Mammoth Cave National Park. Didn't think too hard to name that one. Clue number 2, the Toyota manufacturing plant is in Georgetown in Kentucky. And the first interracial college in the South is Berea College. So specifically, we're in London, Kentucky. It's a small city in the southeastern part of the state known as the cycling capital of Kentucky due to its scenic bike trails and annual Redbud Ride. It's also famous for hosting the World Chicken Festival, celebrating the region's connection to the Colonel Sanders and the origins of Kentucky Fried Chicken. So our guest today is a referral coordinator for military insurance. His wife does the same work. They live in a 2-story apartment and he's a die-hard wrestling fan. So our guest today from London, Kentucky is Aaron Bird. So Luke, quick little second intro for those playing along at home and watching this on video. You'll see that we're actually, well, I think we're in different shirts to a couple of days ago. We had a delay from our guest and you'll hear in the intro Ryan's voice, but then for the rest of the podcast, you will hear that he is no longer here because he couldn't make the second recording. And Luke, I think you know the real reason why Ryan's not here. He's given us a fake excuse around work.
Oh, I don't want to delve too far into it. It's gonna upset me. But I am peeved at him every time I go to hit him up on Teams. It's always yellow. He's never online anymore. I think if you're listening, Ryan, we're gonna dock your pay, mate. We've had enough.
Yeah. I think
It's
so.
too
Last
much.
time it was a photo shoot and then it was something else to do with CrossFit. I can't remember, but
Yeah, like I said, it upsets me, especially
Yeah.
CrossFitters.
it's a long weekend. So maybe he's just gone to the beach.
It's
Maybe
not
he's
started
fighting.
yet, mate. Not
Yeah,
started yet.
yeah. Well, it's Friday for Ryan. Maybe he's taking an extra long weekend for the Australia Day weekend. If you're overseas, we have a public holiday on Monday. So perhaps Ryan's just taking an extra day off.
Good
It
for
would
him.
appear. Good, must be nice. So it'll just be Luke and I for the rest of this podcast with our guest Aaron. So looking forward to that chat with the two of us, or 3 of us in total with Aaron. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially, Aaron. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from Kentucky in the US.
Yes, thank you very much. In lovely London, Kentucky, where we've been frozen in for the last few days.
I've been to London, England, but not London, Kentucky. What's it like over there?
The town that I'm from is substantially smaller than this one. But this town there's 2 exits on our interstate, which is not much. It's a small town in Kentucky. There's mostly narrow-minded. We're getting a little better. I'll admit that we're getting better. We've got a lot of good people with good hearts, but not exactly the most intelligent people.
Gotcha. Good summary. Aaron, who are we?
There is nothing in.
Okay.
It's about 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, thanks for jumping on the podcast and agreeing to come on. And if you'd like to start by telling us who we're talking about today and what happened to them.
We're talking about my dad. He passed away of kidney failure in 2012. He had had a stroke in 2006, and I took care of him since his stroke until he passed away. And I mean, how much in detail do you want me to go? Because I can tell you that full story if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as you like. The floor is
Well,
yours.
so I graduated high school in 2005. Was supposed to go to college in 2006. I had gotten accepted to Western Kentucky University for broadcasting, and my dad was supposed to retire in at the end of May. And we had this big trip planned. Well, at the beginning of May, my dad suffered a massive stroke and ended up paralyzed on the right side of his body. And the weekend that we were supposed to take this massive trip, I ended up going and staying at a rehab facility with him and learning how to transfer him from a wheelchair to a bed into a car, how to help him walk and stuff like that. So we come home and end up living with my grandmother for a little bit because she already had her home set up better for that. And we did what we needed to on our home so we could move back. But me and my best friend and my dad stayed there. Thankfully, my best friend was by me for the whole time. My dad ended up calling him his other son. His name's Alan Hill. I have an older brother named Travis. He was in college and living his life at the time. My mother didn't live with us. She worked in another state. So I was the best option to take care of him instead of him going to a nursing home. And I wasn't going to do that to him. I made that promise to him as soon as he lived. And the first time I heard his voice, I told him, "You'll never have to go to work." So we stay with my mama for about a month. We get our house together. We end up moving back there. I trash my Western acceptance because that would require me to go across the state. I ended up going to a small community college here and getting my associate's degree. And I mean, what I did basically, I would go to class, come home, take care of him. I would, my brother would, the days that he could or that he wasn't busy doing his stuff, he would, help get dad up, stuff like that. But for the most part, I would fix his dinners, I would get him his medicine, showers, all that jazz. And that's how it went for years. Then in 2011, I got, I was about to finish up my broadcasting degree from Eastern Kentucky University. Not as prestigious as Western, but I still got my degree. Like that was my thing. And my goal was to work in wrestling. So that was that. Um, I was getting ready to move to Richmond, and he was going to have to live with my mama, but I was going to come home on the weekends and take care of him. My brother was living in the same town, so he would be able to come by and help get him up and get him in bed of an evening, stuff like that my grandmother wasn't physically able to do. Because at this point, we knew he was never going to get full mobility back. And then we found out that he had 7% kidney failure, or kidney function rather, and had to go on dialysis. He didn't want to do it. My grandmother begged him. He finally agreed. So, on top of all that, he was doing dialysis. So, 4 days a week, I went to college an hour away. And then the other 3 days a week, I would come home and take care of him. I would, and get him out of the house because I was the only person physically capable. He was 450 pounds, big man. And I could get him up and move him around however I needed him to go. So I would take him to dialysis on Saturdays. We'd go catch a movie, and then we would, just kind of hang out after all that. And then on Sundays, I would come over, get him up. We'd watch TV shows, share a pack of cigarettes, something like that. And then in January of 2012, my grandmother passed away unexpectedly. So my brother started helping more and was there more, but still he wasn't able to get dad out and around. So on the weekends, that was still my thing. And dad started going to dialysis only 2 days a week. Well, when I got ready to graduate, he stopped it, period. Doctors told him, you're going to live 30 days if you stop this. That was in May. I came home and dude, anything he wanted to do, we did it. We would get up on Sunday mornings and he'd be like, I don't feel like getting out of bed today. Fine. Don't get out of bed. I'll run out, get us a dozen tacos, couple of movies, and we'll stay right here in the room and watch movies all day. It got to a point where where he wasn't eating anymore. Like he just had no appetite. It was kidney failure. We knew this was coming, but still at this point, he had already lived a month longer than the doctors gave him. We're into mid-June at this point, and I call up a good friend of mine. Her mother acquires some pot, rolls my dad a joint. My dad smokes that joint. And he's like, oh, I'd really love to have. And he starts listing off all this stuff and he wants to go to the movies. So I load him up in the Explorer. He is higher than a hippie in a hot air balloon. And I stop at a gas station. And before I can get out of the gas station parking lot, he has already ate 2 corn dogs. And he has started to open up his strawberry shortcake bar. Because, I mean, eat whatever you want. Like, fine. You know what's coming. So we went and watched, I want to say it was The Dark Knight Rises. Because I'm pretty sure this was the last movie trip we took. So this was July, maybe. But not long after this, he got to where he couldn't hold his breath to get out of bed. So we had to get him on oxygen, and I finally called my mom, and I said, I can't do it alone. So she came up, we got him signed up on hospice, and he asked me if I would speak at his funeral. So, of course, I told him I would. And then he passed away. It was supposed to be SummerSlam 2012. So it was August 19th, 2012. I was holding his hand, telling him it was okay, and Mama was waiting on him. And that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but I'm proud I did it.
I'm sure he's proud too, Aaron. That's a mammoth effort from start to finish, by the sounds of it, from diagnosis to him eventually passing.
There were some bumps along the way. He did have to stay in a nursing home for a little bit. He broke his ankle, and at that point, he couldn't put any weight anywhere, so there was nothing I could do there. I massively totaled a $40,000 car when I hit black ice on the interstate one night with us trying to get home, and it's the highest spot on I-75, which is the longest road in the United States, or north to south, longest road in the United States. The highest point on that road, I took our car through the median, and the entire interstate ended up getting shut down and was a sheet of ice by the end of the night. So,
wow. Aaron, how would you describe your dad, Tommy, to a stranger? What was he like? Maybe prior to his renal failure.
Well, my dad had a short temper, but I feel like after the stroke, a lot of that side of him went away. He was always a very funny, fun life, but he could be hateful at points too. Like that's just he held more of a grudge with people and was snappier. I'll put it that way. They were made for a lot of fun memories. He got into it with a woman at a bank drive-through because she cut him off. And she came back and handed her business card to him. And he looked at it, threw it back out the window and said, I ain't impressed, bitch. I went to college too. And I'm in kindergarten in the back seat with my friends, and we all just died. Like that was just who he was. He had this thing when we would get on his nerves as kids, he would sit and tap his chair, and Mom would come through and be like, "Boys, you're getting on your dad's nerves. You need to get him a little bit."
They're great
Any more-
memories to have. Yeah, sorry, Luke.
Any more funny stories about your dad, Aaron?
I was going to ask that too. Yeah.
I want to hear about his short temper.
Well, so okay, he got into it with my dad. Coached baseball, loved baseball. He got into it with an umpire, and the umpire ended up kicking him out of the game. My brother was still in the game. When we got out to the parking lot, my dad was still there. He had every intention of shooting the umpire when the umpire left the game because the umpire couldn't remember the rules.
With like a BB gun, right?
No, he would fly. It was hilarious, but it was also like, are you for real right now, or are you just trying to put on a show?
Yeah, I don't want to piss your dad off. Jesus. You get shot if you don't know the rules?
Well, he got kicked out because he had broke the rule, but the umpire couldn't tell him the rule he broke. And that just, he was always the kind of person that would question authority. I remember the story. He went to a Democratic party, or he went to a politics party with my brother and fell asleep. And when he woke up, they were talking about drug dealers, and Dad goes, "Drug dealers got to eat too." And it's just like, oh, okay, Dad is just going to pop awake and defend the drug dealers because why not?
I mean, he's got a point. He definitely has a point.
I would stop and pick up like random trash or move shopping carts. I would move shopping carts and grab extras and all that. And he would go, "Son, don't you realize that this is job security for some poor kid right now? Because if you're moving all these carts, he ain't going to be able to spend an hour out here doing it. It's going to take you 15 minutes. I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but come on.
I'm on your side, Aaron. That's a real pet peeve of mine, the shopping carts situation. And yeah, if I can make their job easier, I mean, that's not even the point of it, right? But it's pure laziness from everyone else. What lessons did you learn from your dad? Maybe away from the whether it's not the temper side of things. What lessons did you learn from him?
One of them that I love to quote is, "There's no point in being up at 5 a.m. unless you're hunting or with a woman." And that's one of the funnier ones. But for Dad, it was really just enjoy life and don't worry about everybody else, is what I've learned through my life of dealing with Dad. I'll put it that way, because he was about us having fun. He would be the one to, let's just call into work, take a day off school, and go watch a ball game. As where Mom was you work. You get your work done, you work. So I got to have both sides of it. Now, after the stroke, he became a lot funnier and a lot more relaxed about life. And I feel like I got to know him more as a friend. And that was a lot of fun for me. Because I feel like all of that really helped to shape the friend and person that I am with my people. Admittedly, I can be an asshole if I don't know a person or don't like a person. But if I do like them, we ain't got no problem. I'm going to make you laugh. That's what we're going to do.
And we heard about, obviously, at a
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise, after you pass. My Legacy Message. Be remembered.
And we heard about, obviously, you had an enjoyment of movies, maybe not of baseball, depending on the the umpires. But what other things did he enjoy? What do you remember about your dad, the things of life that he enjoyed?
It made me think my dad's favorite sounds were, and he would tell you this whenever he got the opportunity, the sound of a baseball bat cracking a ball, a cool summer breeze, and the sound of my own voice saying, "I told you so." But Dad was diehard baseball fan throughout his life. He was kind of a professor of baseball like I am wrestling. We both loved comic books. Green Lantern is actually our favorite comic book character. I have a tattoo for him that is the Green Lantern emblem inside the Batman logo, because the Batman logo was the last movie we watched before he died. So
That's cool.
um,
Who was his team? Ryan's going to be spewing. He's not here because he's a baseball fanatic himself. But who was his team?
Cincinnati Reds, man. My dad was a big fan of the Big Red Machine from the 70s. And when me and my brother were born, we came home in Cincinnati Reds booties. Like that is how it was.
Favorite player?
Pete Rose. Pete Rose was always his favorite. He hated the fact that Pete didn't get put on in the Hall of Fame. And then Johnny Bench. One of my favorite things, I knew it was going to be a big weekend in Cincinnati, but I didn't realize what all was going on. I knew they were going to give away these Gold Glove winner plaques at the ballpark, and that Johnny Bench and King Griffey would be there. So I'd get tickets, take him up there as a Father's Day present. Lo and behold, it's also the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame weekend. And all of the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Famers are at the ballpark to meet fans for pictures. So I got to take him around to meet all of these players that he loved. And the look on his face and in his eyes when we rode up in the elevator with Johnny Bench when we didn't even know, he goes, "Son, that was Johnny Bench. I got to ride in the elevator with Johnny Bench." And then, we went through and he got to meet him. He got a picture with Bench. He met Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan played on the same team as Bench in 74, 70, in that same Reds Big Red Machine. And Morgan was also a baseball announcer at the time. And my dad looks at him and goes, "Joe Morgan, I like to watch you on TV. Gives me somebody to argue with and say they're wrong all the time." And Joe starts cracking up. He said, "Buddy, as long as you're watching, that's fine with me." And that's all that reply from him helped shape me with my podcast and the way that I am with it. Like, as long as you're watching, if you're hate watching, you're still watching.
That's fine. Yeah. Lucky that Ryan's not on, because I'm sure the two of you would have nerded out on baseball talk. We probably would have been going in a completely different tangent. Aaron,
my team was the Boston. I was a diehard Red Sox fan. My brother's a diehard Yankees fan. So we butt heads.
Yeah.
We are baseball.
How do you pick a team? Because there's no major league team from Kentucky, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
But Cincinnati is just across the state line. It's a
pretty
3 hour
close.
drive.
Yeah.
So we went up there all the time. Now for me, my dad's best friend, we called him Coach. He coached at the local college, diehard Boston Red Sox fan. So he would come over and watch the Red Sox games with Dad, and that's how I got to watching them, because that was the game they would watch together a lot. And like, I have a Bronson Arroyo signed jersey on my office wall. And he played on the Red Sox 2004 World Series team. And then when he retired from baseball, he played for the Cincinnati Reds. So he played on both of them. So I think it's really cool. Yeah. Well, I got to see.
Did it annoy your dad that you were a Red Sox fan and your brother supported the Yankees?
No, not in the least. He didn't care who we liked as much as it was as long as we understood what we were watching. Now, if you would come in and be like, "Oh, come on, Dad, this guy ain't worth a shit," and Dad would pop off and be like, "Son, he throws a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, and then he'll throw a 85-mile-an-hour curve right upside your head." And that was Dad's thing. You better at least know what you're watching. And admittedly, my brother knew what he was watching way more than I did. My brother played baseball, so I was the one that was like, "All right, is this over? Can we flip it over to Monday Night Raw now?"
That's fair enough. Aaron,
Yeah.
for those that are going through or might go through something similar to yourself, I guess in that care aspect, being the main reliant person, knowing what was, I guess, coming for your dad, any piece of advice you would give during that process, during that care period and even after their loved one passing away?
Well, for me, knowing and having a relationship with God was very important. I'm a very left-wing liberal Christian, but I am a Christian. I firmly believe in God, and I think that God would have been liberal. So doesn't make me a lot of fans around here, but I own that. And I think that having any relationship with a higher power is going to make this kind of thing easier. For me, knowing that, my dad's not just dying, the earthly body is. Like, I knew and I know I'll see him again. It's just, it sucks that we're not hanging out now. But I know that that's the natural order of things. Unfortunately,
Did
you
you
just kind of have.
sorry to cut you off, Aaron. Did you ever ask your dad about his beliefs?
Oh, my dad was a Christian through through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was the one that was like, "We're going to church on Sundays with Mama," and that was not to say my mother wasn't a Christian. My mother didn't like that church. And I can understand why, as an adult looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, they weren't really like pro women here. But that was where my dad had grew up.
Yeah.
It was a small local church, and that was where he wanted us to go because he had a preference. So we went. And now um I'm I got married at a church down in Williamsburg. We've not been able to go as regularly as we would like because we're 45 minutes away usually. Depending on traffic, it can be a little less, especially with all the road work they're doing now. But in Williamsburg, I go to a church called Grace Christian Fellowship, and that pastor down there is one of the best men I've ever known. His name's Bill Mullins. He has let me help him organize wrestling events to try and reach out to other people because there's a lot of wrestlers that are Christians. So we've done that. I want to say we had 28 people get saved the first night, and that's another big achievement for me. Like, I got 28 people. If it didn't stick, that's not my fault. But I got 28 people that night to at least to help feel something. So that made me feel better.
Aaron, it's great advice. And I guess when I'm thinking back to other guests we've had on the podcast, regardless of what the belief is, if there's a higher, I guess, power, for want of a better term, then that's certainly helped them. Would you say that's both during that process pre your dad passing away and then post as well? It's helped having that sense of belief?
Yeah, and I'll admit I kind of lost myself a little bit when Dad passed away. I drank a lot during that time, and I ended up in 2014. I started hanging out with a friend who really helped to get me out of my shell a lot. And then another one of my friends moved home. So I got to hang out with both of them a lot. Heather Fuson and Leah Heatwall. We don't really hang out nowadays. I'm married. You don't really hang out with your female friends as much. I don't know how it works. But then I had a very good system of friends. Dustin Wolf, he's actually I'm assuming he's a pastor now. We haven't hung out as much since I got married because we just don't see each other. That's how things go. But I have seen him on TikTok preaching, and it's awesome to see his life as it is. Heather and Leah are both married with multiple kids. I'm happily married nowadays, but I look back at how much those friendships were also as important to getting me through that time in life. Because without those, and without me and my brother had to develop a really good relationship. We had been on, when he got married, I refused to be his best man. When I got married, he was my best man. So we mended all those bridges. We're best friends now. We can sit and play Call of Duty for 2 hours and cut up like nothing. But developing that friendship with him, me and him, we went and watched The Who, my favorite band, hands down. We went and watched them, and we went to see Guns N' Roses, Bob Dylan. Dad was big on music, and he instilled that in both of us a lot. So for us to be able to knock off all those big shows together, we went to Garth Brooks in Atlanta. That was so much fun. So
So the friendship network post your dad passing away is the best of advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In a long way.
Yeah, I gotcha. Aaron, last question for you for the main part of the podcast, and traditionally our hardest question for guests, or can be the most difficult. If your dad, Tommy, was in front of you today, what would you say to him?
Hey, Moose. That's literally all I'd have to say. I know that he knows. I actually had a dream a couple of years ago, and in the dream, I was talking to him about my life, and it's like he already knew, and I feel like that gave me a lot of peace. And yeah, I mean, my first thought would be, "Where's my dog?" Because I lost her a couple of years after I lost him, and I guarantee you that he's feeding her spam right now.
Well, Aaron, that's a great answer, and you've spoken really well and fondly of your dad throughout this podcast. Really appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable and sharing stories and memories of him. We've loved hearing about it, and really appreciate you coming on and giving up your time.
Like speaking at the funeral, I'm happy to do it. Like this is how we don't have stories like we used to before technology. This is how you tell a story. Like, hopefully somebody in Australia hears this and thinks, "Oh, that Tommy Bird guy wanted to pull a gun on an umpire," and thinks that's hilarious. Like, that's fine with me. And life. One thing me and Dad did, my parents would get me comic convention passes as Christmas gifts when I was taking care of him, and it was really simple. Either because the convention was near where my mom lived, either mom would take care of him while I was there, or I'd just take him with me, and he could hang out in the hotel of an evening. Well, through that, I got to build a relationship with Adam Phelps, who he partially runs Fanboy Expo now. And one of the guys I met at a convention was Jason David Frank. I met him at the last convention I went to with my dad. I met
Yes,
him in
that's crazy. You mentioned this because we were talking about him on, one of our episodes of Interesting People. So yeah, that's crazy that you worked with Jason David Frank.
well, we went and had dinner that night, and then not long after my dad passed away, because I had his contact information, I got him booked for Fanboy, and we hit it off. And there is a picture of me, him, and the DJ from the party. And the DJ from the party, Scott Fisher, is still on my Facebook today, and he is still struggling with that loss. That actually might be a good guy for you all to talk to, because he lost his mom and his best friend in a very close stretch. And Scott's a good dude.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from him. And as we've loved hearing from you today, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. We've really enjoyed speaking to you. So Luke, that was Aaron from London, Kentucky in the USA.
Thank you, Aaron. Man, that was a really cool. That was a really cool chat. He definitely shouldered a lot.
He did. He did. I love those guests where you can just let him run and he'll tell you the whole story. And, we mentioned it there at the end of the Patreon chat with him that Aaron mentioned that he certainly didn't want anyone in the family or anyone, I guess, even listening to this thinking that, they should feel bad for him taking on that burden. That was his choice and they had their own lives to live. And huge effort, I think, for someone to, I guess, almost sacrifice. He was on his way to, his college journey and to really take that on himself and, make that promise to his dad and look after him. That's a really, tip of the hat, really
Oh
massive,
man,
massive
definitely,
effort.
definitely.
Yeah.
I hope he took time for himself, so to speak, afterwards. Because you gotta make some time for yourself. So I just hope he's done that.
Yeah, he mentioned that in the podcast. I think that he struggled for a little while and then,
Mm,
had his really good group of friends around him. So it was yeah, great. I mean, not great, but I guess great to hear how Aaron has come through it on the back of it, how he helped his dad throughout that process, and hopefully that story will help someone out there going through something similar. And in that vein, if you have enjoyed this episode with Aaron, please share it to any wrestling fans, any comic book fans, any baseball fans. They will certainly get a kick out of it. But anyone in general, I guess, that's going through their grief journey that you think may benefit from this episode with Aaron, but any of our episodes, feel free to share that with them. Like and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. 5 stars ideally. Leave us a review, leave us a comment. That would help us show up on any searches, people that are looking for grief-related podcasts that are going through something. I mentioned the Patreon before.
I was going to say, Aaron had a good little story on our Patreon too. To jump over and
Yes.
give that a listen. I loved hearing that story, but I was actually left speechless. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Jump on there, and if you love your wrestling, you would definitely love that Patreon chat with Aaron. So check out our Patreon. $6 a month, I think, US, to get exclusives with Aaron and all of our guests since we started the Patreon membership. So that was a really cool chat with Aaron. And if you do love wrestling, and to give his podcast a bit of a plug as well, Till Five Wrestling Podcast. References someone in particular. I'm not as much of a wrestling aficionado as Aaron obviously is, but he does explain that in the Patreon. So jump onto our Patreon and support the podcast and listen to that exclusive with Aaron. We'd really appreciate that. And the My Legacy message, which you'll hear spliced into this episode as well, where you can leave messages to your loved ones when you pass away, mylegacymessage.com.au. I'm sure Aaron would have loved a message from Tommy that he can play, whether that be before or after a wrestling watch or a movie or a baseball match. I'm sure you would love that as well. So jump on there. That service is available as well. Luke, thank you for joining me in absence of Ryan. It was good having you on. As I said during the podcast, I think Ryan would have absolutely loved that chat especially
would
around the
have.
baseball. Yeah, so I'm kind of glad he wasn't around because it could have gone for a very long time just down the baseball.
We'd still be in the introduction.
Oh, we'd just be talking about baseball. We would have had to cut it short for sure. With you and I, with limited baseball knowledge, we could just let Aaron do his thing.
Even wrestling too. I have no idea about wrestling. All I can remember is one of our past guests talking about Dick the Bruiser. That was all that was
Yes,
running
that's
through my mind.
That's right.
So Aaron, if you know of Dick the Bruiser, give us a thumbs up. Let us
I've
know.
no doubt Aaron will know who that is. That was a great chat. We really appreciate Aaron being vulnerable. We've had a couple of male guests now in a row, so thank you to
Yes,
those guys
great.
for jumping on and being vulnerable. And you could see how emotional, how much it meant to him. And I'm really glad Aaron came on and shared stories of his dad, Tommy. It was really cool to hear. Again, thank you, Luke, for jumping on our OG episode with our guests, our original gangster episodes with our guests. Great having Aaron on. Great having you on. Until next time, take care of yourself. Thanks for joining me. Love you.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark and Ryan are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several free resources are available in Australia. Information about these services is available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact a loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.